Hi, I'm Tiekka. Welcome to Everyday Ballet, where we bring gorgeous classical ballet principles, training, and style to everyday life. You don't need a dancer's body, you don't need to be young, and you don't need to know anything about ballet. I'm here to show you everything about this amazing technique and how to use it for your life. In this video, I'm going to be answering one of the questions I get all the time, which is, which ballet slippers should I get? Now, I know especially if you're newer to ballet or maybe you're getting that first pair, it can seem really overwhelming because there are literally hundreds of styles and brands to choose from. So I'm going to be giving you those pointers about what to look for in a ballet slipper, as well as my go-to recommendations. I'm so glad you're here. Let's ballet. First and foremost, if you already have a pair of ballet slippers and you're wondering if you really got the right ones, don't worry. Ballet slippers are very forgiving in terms of their fit, kind of like a pair of socks. You don't want them to be too tight, you don't want them to be cutting into your skin, and likewise, you don't want them falling off your feet. But anywhere in between, you're probably just fine. When you start out in ballet, it is perfectly fine to wear a pair of regular socks because we're mostly standing at the bar and we're mostly just staying on place. And those socks are going to allow us to slide our feet against the floor. But if you're going to go on in your ballet technique, you will want to consider investing in a pair of ballet slippers. This is because ballet slippers are kind of somewhere between a regular sock and a light shoe, and they provide the right amount of friction against the floor so that you can use the feet effectively without slip sliding around. A lot of people, when they start out, they'll think, oh, instead of ballet slippers, I'll use my bar socks. Do not do this. Bar socks have rubberized grips on the bottom, and that rubber is going to really stick against the floor, and it's not going to allow your foot to slide. So it's really important not to wear bar socks. The other thing that people do sometimes without ballet slippers is they wear bare feet. Now, bare feet, you should never do this unless you're a professional and really know what you're doing. And that's because, with bare feet, you're just more vulnerable to stubbing your toe or twisting your toes, and we really don't want any of that. So socks are great to begin, but when you know that you want to continue with ballet, I highly recommend getting a pair of ballet slippers. There are two main types of ballet slippers, canvas and leather. And which one you get is going to depend on a few factors. So here you see I have a number of ballet slippers in a couple of colors and both the canvas and leather. Here is the canvas, it's a sturdy cotton canvas, and then here is the leather, and it's a very supple leather. There's nothing stiff about a ballet slipper. One of the factors that will dictate whether or not you want a canvas shoe or a leather shoe has to do with your practice area. If you have a floor that is slick, oftentimes if we're practicing at home, for instance, on a wood or a linoleum or even a tile or a marble floor, that can feel a little bit slick underneath the feet. In that case, you would want to get a leather ballet slipper. As you can see here, it's very, very supple, and it's got a little bit more grip, and that is going to help prevent that feeling of slipping or feeling like your feet are kind of sliding around. We definitely don't want that. Now, if you have a stickier surface, or perhaps you're working on carpet at home, you are going to want to use canvas. The canvas is a cotton canvas, and it's going to allow you to slide a little bit more like a sock would do. So canvas is really good for a stickier surface. Now, I actually have so many pairs of ballet slippers because I'm doing ballet all the time. And so what I say to my students in the studio is, in the summertime, I find that it's better to wear the cotton canvas, not only because it's cotton, it's a little bit more breathable, but also because the humidity in the studio is greater, and this causes the floor to feel a little bit stickier. So the canvas allows us to slide without sticking. And then in the winter, winter, when it's a little bit drier and the floor can feel more slick, I tell people to get the leather shoes. So that's a seasonal kind of determination, but it really just depends on your practice space. Another thing that will guide your decision between canvas and leather is the price point. So canvas shoes are anywhere between $15 to $30, $35, and that is going to be a lower price point than our leather shoe. The leather shoes typically run somewhere between $25, $28, and $50. So it really just depends. If you want to get your first pair, perhaps try a pair of canvas ballet slippers to see if you like the fit, the style, etc. And then when you're ready, you can get those leather shoes. Another determination is going to be about how long these shoes last. Typically, because leather is a heavier material, it is going to last longer than those canvas shoes. So the extra price point actually gives you usually some more time to be able to wear the shoe. Once you've determined whether or not you need a canvas or leather slipper based upon your practice surface, the next question will be, well, which brand should I get? Well, I always recommend this brand. It's called Capezio. And it's not because Capezio ballet slippers are so much better than other brands. It's because of the sizing issue. So if you've done any research about ballet slippers, you will very quickly discover that the sizing from brand to brand is completely different. And part of the reason for this is that there are so many international brands for dancewear for ballet slippers. Because I am in New York City, I happen to see an American clientele, but generally the world over, most people do know their American street shoe size. So Capezio's sizing follows the standard American street shoe size. For instance, I'm an 8.5 medium in my street shoe, and I order 8.5 medium ballet slippers. So it makes it really easy. You don't have to guess, and that's one of the big reasons that I recommend Capezio ballet slippers. So once you've decided that you're going to look at the Capezio slippers, you'll find out that there are many, many different styles within the Capezio family. So I always recommend one. It's called the Juliet slipper. So let's take a look at these ballet slippers and how they come out of the box. So when you open up your box with your ballet slippers, they're going to come wrapped in a little bit of tissue. And then when you open them up, I love that they're folded so neatly here. These are canvas slippers. Just move that tissue paper. These are canvas slippers, and you can see the sizing is right on the bottom. Now, one of the reasons I recommend this Juliet slipper is actually because of this split sole. So on a regular shoe, a sole will go from the front edge of the shoe all the way back to the heel, and it's kind of this plate on the bottom of the shoe. But for a split sole, it breaks it up. So you have this pad, a suede kind of pad under the ball of the foot, and then a little pad under the heel. And the reason I like this is because it allows for a very flexible shoe. And that's what mirrors kind of a sock. And I'm going to pretend my foot is a hand here. It allows you to point and stretch easily. If we look at the inside of the slipper, there's actually, let me see if I can show you here. There's a little bit of foam. It's a very small layer, but there's a little bit of foam inside. And that is also at the ball, which is going to be harder for me to show you. But this provides just this tiniest little bit of light padding so that it doesn't feel like the bones of your foot are poking through the floor. The other reason I like the Juliet slipper is that it comes with the elastics already attached. When I was a girl, we used to have to sew these elastics by ourselves, and that was fine. I spent a lot of time sewing my shoes, but it's really convenient to just take them right out of the box and be able to slip them on. Furthermore, we have an elastic string here, and this helps to be able to make the fit more secure across the top of the foot. And then the final thing that I like about the Juliet slipper is that it has what's called a diamond gusset. So the gusset is right here, and you can see why they've called it a diamond gusset. It has that diamond shape. And what I like about this is that aesthetically, from the side, it draws up through the arch. And in ballet, we want these beautiful pointed and arched feet. And so that diamond gusset just really hugs the arch and gives your foot the best kind of point and aesthetic line that it can have. So I find the Juliet slipper to be a very functional slipper and ready to use right out of the box. So once you've taken your shoes out of the box, you can literally just slip them on, and they don't really have a left or right side. You may try both on both feet, and see which one feels more comfortable, but generally they should be made basically the same, so there's not a left or right shoe when it comes to ballet slippers. So the way you slip them on is you basically put the entire foot under this X, just like that. And that X ends up being on the top. Hopefully the shoe is sitting there and it's comfortably on without the elastics digging into your skin. And then I'm going to put the other one on as well. So basically lifting up that X, sliding the toes in, and pulling it on. Now, we have a lot of string down here. You can see all of this little string. This is to help the top of the shoe grip the foot. So depending on your individual foot, you may have a little bit of gapping up here. Other people, it may be just fine without tightening these little strings. It's also important to note that the Capezio ballet slippers come in both narrow and wide sizes in addition to the regular or medium. So if you have a narrow or wide foot, you can definitely use that. So from here, what we do is we just tie these off. Now, some people like to tie them into little bows, but essentially, if you're doing ballet, and all of us professional dancers, we tie them in a little knot. And you're just going to want to make sure that it feels comfortable. Don't tie them so tight that this is digging into your skin. Now, you can see we have a lot of extra string here. So it's really important to clip this down. So you just take a pair of scissors once you're sure that it's tied how you would like it to be. You take a pair of scissors and you cut it off. And then you can just set those aside. And now we have these little strings sticking up here. In ballet, we always want to tuck our strings and our ribbons in. So basically, you're going to take this little knot and you're going to tuck it under, just like this. And that little knot will help secure it. So you have a really nice, clean look at the top. And there you go. Now you've got your ballet slipper. The other side, we do the same thing. So you can notice here that I have a little bit of gapping. And this is not something wrong with the shoe. It just means that I need to tighten it down a little bit so that it's not gapping. So once again, this one's actually already tied a little bit. Just tie it and then there we go. It's not gapping anymore. So I tie it again. And now, I like to leave myself about an inch and a half of little cording here, just in case I need to untie it and retie it. And then just snip off the excess and then tuck it in. And there you go. Now we have our ballet slippers on. Now, when you are actually trying on your ballet slippers for the first time, you're going to want to make sure that they hug the foot much like a sock. And because we are not all symmetrical in our feet, we often have one that's a little bit bigger and another that's smaller. One might feel a little bit tighter than the other. Something to note is that these ballet slippers will stretch a little bit. The canvas and the leather stretch. Actually, the leather stretches a little bit more because leather is more pliable, but the canvas definitely stretches as well. So a good way to test whether or not you have the right size is to stand up and just kind of move the feet around a little bit. Press up through the balls and just notice. One of the places that you'll want to check out is this place across the toes, right? The big toe to the pinky toe. A lot of us are a little bit wider there, and so it's really important to make sure that this part is not cutting and it doesn't feel too tight across there. And then I recommend just wearing your slippers around the house for a little bit and just kind of working out through the feet to see how it feels. Now, of course, all of us dancers, we're always pointing our toes, so one thing that we do a lot is we kind of push them over just like this. And that will give you a good idea. If the slippers feel pretty comfortable, your toes aren't sandwiched in there too hard, they're not rubbing against each other in a weird way, then your slippers are probably just fine. If they're a little tiny bit tight, it's not a problem because they're going to stretch out as you sweat, as you move the feet in them. But what are problems is if the toes are rubbing against one another. Something you should note is that if you're going to wear ballet slippers or do ballet generally, you're going to want to keep those toenails pretty short. Otherwise, with the toes together, they will start kind of cutting in to one another, and we definitely don't want that. And finally, when your ballet shoes get dirty, it's actually pretty easy to wash them. So the canvas ones, again, I like those for most of my time in the studio because they are easy to wash. So you just throw them in the washing machine on a warm or cool water temperature with just a little bit of detergent, and you just wash them. And instead of putting them in the dryer, just sit them out maybe on a windowsill. Just open up the toe part so that the air can get in there and let them air dry. And when you put them on again, they may have shrunk just a tiny bit, but they will stretch out again. Now the leather, you can't really wash those, although you can use like little deodorant sprays and things to put inside. Also those little things they call sneaker balls, which are just to help your shoes keep them from stinking up, are really good. But whenever you're done using your ballet slippers, you're going to want to set them out and leave them open so the air can get in there and circulate, and that way they won't start to get smelly. So I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial about ballet slippers and which ones to get. And if you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe. I would love to share more ballet with you. Until next time, happy dancing.